Hello, my name is Chris Inglis. I'm the U.S. National Cyber Director, and I'm just delighted to be with you, albeit in this virtual format, the Military Cyber Professionals Association. And I want to congratulate you on this first annual conference, and in particular, I congratulate you on your theme. I love your theme. You have to beat all of us to beat one of us. I think that's true in other domains of interest. We need to make it true in the cyber domain of interest. Representing the Office of the National Cyber Director, I would offer that we're relatively new. We're on the build, probably now about 4 months old in terms of our resourcing, about a year old in terms of the various activities that we've undertaken to define ourselves. But in a few short phrases, I would say that what the Office of the National Cyber Director is striving to contribute is greater coherence, greater collaboration, greater resilience by design so that we can get to your vision for cyberspace, which is you have to beat all of us to beat one of us. Most of that is doctrine, but we need to turn all of that to practice. Let me begin by talking a little bit about what that strategy looks like. I'll start with a quote that I love from Jeff Moss of DEF CON and Black Hat fame. He asked the question in many of his talks, why do race cars have bigger brakes? He quickly answers, they have bigger brakes so that they can go faster. There's an analog, pun intended, in cyberspace, which is that we have cyberspace not for its own sake, but so that we can achieve the things that are dependent upon cyberspace. Sometimes it's your personal functions, often it's your businesses, increasingly national security, critical functions, all depend on cyberspace, a resilient, robust, well-defended cyberspace. And if that's true, then we need to make sure that we pay the cost, that we build in the resilience, we then actively defend what results, that our strategy matches our aspirations. But it's also important to step back and to consider what cyberspace is made of. Of course, the technology clearly is a part of cyberspace. That's the visible part. You can see it. It's often the pacing function. But people are in cyberspace. They're not merely beside cyberspace or served by cyberspace. The choices that people make implicate the futures of cyberspace, for good or bad. They're often on the skirmish lines, the front lines of the cyber threats that we encounter in cyberspace. And then finally, doctrine, or roles and responsibilities in perhaps a more colloquial fashion, but roles and responsibilities are a part of cyberspace. If you get those wrong, then it doesn't matter how right you get the people skills or the technology bits, your cyberspace is probably not defensible, let alone well defended. And those three dimensions, technology, people, and doctrine, are always practiced in the presence of an adversary. Now that adversary could be nature, it could be complacency on the part of a human being, it could be an active human being who's actually trying to either exercise malign influence or do something that would cause us to not have the confidence or the access to the critical functions that we want or that we prefer. I would observe that when an adversary thinks about those three dimensions, technology, people, and doctrine, they typically do it in the reverse order. They will first consider whether your roles and responsibilities are appropriate or whether they're being properly executed. They'll second consider whether your people are up to the game, whether your people's skills, complacency, or perhaps even a lack of training standing in are a soft underbelly that they can take advantage of. And finally, if they have to, they'll take advantage of flaws in technology. But there's so many rich opportunities today in poor doctrine and poor people skills that we almost never see them have to turn to technology as their first court of resort. We need to reverse that trend, make it such that, again, we have to be a harder target. They got to beat all of us to beat one of us. If we do that, that creates a positive vision, where we don't get up in the morning and obsess about the threat, but rather we think about what it is we want to achieve with this space. We then build the resilience in so that it's inherently resilient by design. We then have a defensible architecture, possibly not a secure architecture, but one that can be defended. And we then defend it. And it's really important that in defending that architecture, we use the modality of collaboration. Gone are the days when any one of us could defend all of us by using the limited authorities, capabilities, insights we have, using the resources that we alone might possess. We have to combine them. We have to pool them. We've done that in other domains of interest. We do that on a daily basis in the physical domain of interest. When police forces, individuals, transportation safety agency, NORAD, all manner of parties actually collaborate to create the kind of security, confidence in that security that exists in the physical domain. We need to do the same thing in cyberspace. We call that in the Office of the National Cyber Director a new cyber social contract. That new contract is not new or novel, but it would be new and novel if we did it, if we actually effected it. From the government, which is increasingly the supporting organization, we need to make sure that we bring all of the authorities to bear to ensure that we support the private sector. And we need to make sure that actionable intelligence is actioned, meaning that it's only useful if it's placed in the hands of the actors who can do something about it. And those actors increasingly in the defense of this proposition are in the private sector. From the private sector, we expect them to deliver resilient architectures. We've done this in the aviation industry. We've done this in the automobile industry. We've done it in the drug, the therapeutics industries. We have to do this similarly in cyberspace so that we no longer give ourselves a good grade if we respond to a 2 or a 3 alarm fire in cyberspace and put it out. We only give ourselves a good grade if we avoid these perils by making ourselves a harder target, and that when necessary, we respond in a collaborative fashion to find, to box, to evict the threats in this space together. I would just close that by saying that we often overestimate what the government knows or can do. We underestimate what the private sector knows or can do, and we ignore at our peril what we can only do together. That's really the new social contract. What do we owe each other? And then if we do that, we will achieve a degree of operational intimacy, professional intimacy, where we at the lowest possible level can form dots, can form insights, discover things that no one of us can discover alone. We finally offer that in this kind of venue, we have to make sure that we do this in the largest possible context. In this case, it's the international context. Cyber no more respects the boundaries between national kind of entities than it does respect the boundaries between private and public entities. So this shared vision is one that we, everyone in this conference, needs to make sure we spread to the largest possible population. And we have something in this space that many of our aggressors, many of our adversaries don't. We have allies. We need to make sure that we leverage those allies, we support those allies, that we make it such that when we say you have to beat all of us to beat one of us, we mean the biggest possible version of all of us. I'll close my remarks here by simply saying I wish I could be with you, but I think I am with you, at least in spirit. I love the catchphrase for this conference. I love what you all do. I'll look forward to supporting you in every way possible from the distance I enjoy. Good luck to us.